All right. We are here. Hello, everybody, and happy Wednesday afternoon. I hope you're all taking a phenomenal little lunch break right now. Welcome back. The mission of these conversations is to bring you wisdom through vulnerably discussing transformational life experiences and imparting the impactful techniques and life hacks that will connect you to your most powerful self during and after COVID-19. Join me today for a conversation with Chad Grant and Natasha Hawthorn, co-founders of Anabolic Aces Health Consulting. These two amazing people are a power team. And you guys focus on functional diagnostic nutrition, functional brain chemistry, ancestral nutrition, functional movement, brain biohacking, body composition optimization, and the list goes on and on. I could literally keep reading a lot more stuff about you guys, which is awesome. And I can't express how excited I am to be here with the two of you today. You guys also helped me to cure my own back pain, which I had been dealing with for 7 years, like right back there. And I know a lot of people do. So I just want to thank you all for that amazing program you put together for me. So I know you guys have put together a lot of different amazing health programs, and I just can't say enough about what you've personally done for me. I am healthier, more energetic, more focused, just everything. So very grateful to know you guys and to work with you and to have you on today. So thanks for being here.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris, for that great introduction. We've really enjoyed our journey getting to know you and sharing our knowledge and getting a bunch of awesome knowledge and all of your great healing stuff that you do as well, with all the sound therapy and the Wim Hof stuff and breathing is all really super helpful. So we're super grateful to have you in our lives as well.
Yeah, thank you. I was actually just looking through my Facebook this morning and realized that today was the day 4 years ago, or like approximately today, 4 years ago, when our journey with functional diagnostic nutrition began. That's when we that's when we met the founder of the program at PaleoFX in Austin, Texas. 4 years ago, we met him. We went to his talk. We asked a million questions afterwards to make sure this program was right for us. And then we enrolled in his health coaching program, the training program, and then that's when our journey began, and we just kind of like never really looked back. It was a life-changing moment for sure, and it was this weekend 4 years ago. So. That's
super cool. So for everybody that doesn't know, what is functional diagnostics?
Okay, so the program that we're certified through as health coaches is called Functional Diagnostic Nutrition, which sounds like a mouthful of words. And what it actually means is it's a training program to certify coaches in how to assess a person's lifestyle, their diet, nutrition, kind of all these different factors using functional lab testing. So it's a lot more than just about nutrition. I know nutrition is in the name of the program, but there's a lot more that goes into than just nutrition. We're kind of like functional health practitioners trained in selecting the right diagnostic lab testing to run for each particular individual based on kind of their presentation and what they're coming to the health coaches with, and how to interpret those lab tests, and then how to use that data in combination with the person in front of us, because we have like a very extensive intake form for our one-on-one clients.
I know.
Yeah, you know. But we collect as much data as possible through conversations and through the intake form to really understand who the person is in front of us, and use that in combination with the lab testing to create a custom protocol that can give that person an opportunity to heal from within. Yeah. And so that's what functional diagnostic nutrition means.
Yeah, and what was that one term, metabolic chaos?
Yeah.
Is that what that was? Can you explain that a little bit? Because I found that incredibly fascinating when we were going through that.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, metabolic chaos is my favorite term from. It's basically what it means is, we're exposed to so many different things in the environment across our lifetimes. And the idea of metabolic chaos is very different. It's basically looking at any kind of dis-ease in the body as just, it's rather than a single thing to fix.
It's not a diagnosis.
It's where conventional medicine diagnoses, like there's one thing wrong with you and we have a single molecule drug to fix the quote unquote, fix the problem.
Yeah.
Metabolic chaos is a great term because it's accepting the fact that there's never one cause to the body being out of balance. It's always this, like basically like a symphony of things that are going on, inputs and outputs in the body. And when that collective amount of inputs is off, it basically turns into a mess. And trying to fix a mess of a whole bunch of different things by just changing one thing at a time can be very frustrating. And that was a lot of, my personal journey getting into functional health was a lot of frustration of going to, the conventional system. The way they treat it is you have a generalist as your regular doctor. Then if you have a problem that they can't figure out, you go to a specialist.
Yeah.
The problem with that approach is that when you go to a specialist, they're immediately kind of pigeonholing you in one area where you can go to, well, maybe it's your hormones are out of whack. You go to endocrinologist and all of a sudden it's all hormones all the time. Just focus on that. Meanwhile, there's nothing else being paid attention to other areas like movement or digestion or, mindset, oxygenation of the blood, breathing. All this other stuff is just, nope, it's just take some testosterone or just take this one drug. That will fix your problem. But like most people, our experience was that didn't work for us, that single approach.
It's a reductionist approach, which is why it doesn't
work. It's not how life works in general. It's not like in the course of a week to be healthy, you can just, Monday, I'm just going to eat healthy food and I'm going to not go outside, not get any sunlight, not talk to anyone. And then Tuesday is the opposite. I'm just going to move and I'm not going to eat anything and just go along like that. It's laughable just because that's not how our bodies are designed to work. They're designed to work where you have a sufficiency of a bunch of inputs every day. And that was where the light bulb moment for us with functional diagnostic nutrition was that it puts the whole puzzle together at the same time. So if we work with clients, whether it's a short or long-term program, we've run programs all the way from 1 month up to 12-month programs with people. It's always holistic in the truest sense of the word, in that we look at the person's overall life and all the different factors in health and try to prioritize, based on these, 5, 10, whatever dimensions of health and all the data, both qualitative data we get from talking and intake forms and interviewing people, and quantitative data we get in the lab testing. We bring all that together and try to address the biggest kind of rank priority of the biggest issues holistically all at the same time. And the synergy of that is really what brings the power of that approach, a functional approach. And FDN is only one approach out of many kind of functional approaches, is just the one that, kind of resonated the most with us, but it does have that great term, metabolic chaos. It's pretty good.
So it's kind of like, I love that you were saying that it's kind of like a symphony being in harmony or out of harmony. And with, normal medicine that you go into the doctor, you say, hey, my back hurts or whatever. And they're like, okay, well, we'll give you ibuprofen and send you to a physical therapist so you can do some exercises. But even with those like normal prescriptions, you're going to end up still having that for the most part, or you're going to go do that for a little bit. And it'll go away and then you'll stop doing it and it'll come back because you're not addressing the root cause of everything, which can be a multitude of everything from digestion to stress to mindset to everything. So you guys are, instead of fixing the symptom, you're going back to the general cause that the symptom comes from. Yeah.
A couple of things I just wanted to mention about FDN is, what we always say is we don't treat anything specifically. We address everything non-specifically, because when you remove what we call them like roadblocks or, blocks that are preventing your body from healing, because the body has innate intelligence, right?
Yeah,
the body knows how to be healthy. Like, you don't need a graduate degree for the body innately to know how to be healthy, right? Like,
if you listen to it.
Exactly. That's my point. If you listen to it, the body knows how to do it. What happens is we often get in our own way by, all these, external environmental factors that come in and create roadblocks to wealth, or not wealth.
So that
Health,
too.
well-being. Yeah, wealth comes from that. Well-being is what I meant to say. And in FDN, we just go in and, kind of try to sustainably and strategically remove those roadblocks so that the body can return to its natural state of well-being. And that's why I would say we don't treat anything specifically. We kind of address everything non-specifically. And one of the ways that we do that, we're taught this protocol. It's called Dress for Health Success. Isn't that clever?
It is.
And DRESS with 2 S's stands for camera, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplements. So those are like the 5 pillars that we use as in our paradigm to address everything non-specifically.
Yeah. And even though you're saying, for example, non-specifically, and that you don't address anything specifically, when I went through what you guys are doing, you gathered so much data through blood testing, through like stool sample type stuff, like literally everything that we could possibly do to figure out biome and all the hormones that are going through your system and all of your levels of vitamins and your food sensitivities and all of this type of stuff. Like, you get into the details. You get more into the details than any other health professional I had personally been to before. Yeah. And I was already doing Viome, and I was really health conscious and really doing everything that I could to manage these things. But without getting into the depth of detail that the two of you go into with the functional diagnostics, it was like shotgun, try everything without knowing anything. Right. Versus now it's like, hey, you've got this, and this. This is out of balance. Cool. Well, you can do this exercise or take this supplement for this period of time to rebalance, to address that metabolic chaos, to bring your system back into harmony. And like, for what I've found is that now that my digestion is back in order, now that my neurotransmitters are working properly, like all of this stuff, like my mental clarity is so much higher. My strength, my just vitality in general is so much better. And like, when I just go exercise, like I'm doing like a little 10 minutes of kettlebell a day, and like I'm just like I have muscles now. Like, not even like really trying. It's just doing a little bit of effort now goes so much further than it did before, because I've addressed so much of that metabolic chaos. And even you go into the depths of like using natural products. Like, I've finally got through all of my soaps and stuff, and I'm using like natural organic soaps in these different things. So I'm not introducing more external controllable chemical chaos that I was putting in originally. So it's very holistic and very encompassing of everything. And I just don't want people to think when you say we don't address anything specifically, you really address everything specifically.
Yeah. Okay. That's another way to put it. What I was trying to say, I was kind of speaking more broadly,
I know.
as in like what Chad was saying earlier. We don't like just focus on digestion, for example.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. But I really appreciate what you're saying, Chris, because I think that personally, this has been a thing for me, why, again, like the quantitative approach, in addition to the qualitative side of it, I really think is really strong. It's been interesting for me. I've just been on a little tangent and journey for the last 3 months in user experience design, the UX field, learning about that and seeing, we've been in the small scale business world, like entrepreneurship and startup world for, about 3 years, learning how to help people, kind of like boots on the ground kind of stuff, just set up and go, see what happens type of thing. And it's been an amazing ride. And then the last 3 months, I dove into like the corporate tech space and the strategies that companies like, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google here locally in Seattle use. How do they make products that they can scale to the worldwide level that are extremely usable? And really diving into the like user research and areas like that were particularly interesting to me. Like, how do you really get into the deeper why behind what people are doing? And along the way, I saw that a lot of this blending of asking people questions and getting in really deep interviews in combination with data analysis and all the intricacies of collecting a ton of information, where like a data scientist would be pulling, statistics from like millions of data points and analyzing them to see a trend. And then all the way on the other side of that, you have like one-on-one interviewing with a UX researcher who would just be like digging in with a very specific script, trying to get at the deeper reason why someone's motivations. And you can't have one without the other. Mm-hmm. And I think personally for me with it's interesting, like health coaching, which is like our designation because we're not licensed with like, the state or like an official, like a doctor or a therapist like that. But I feel like a lot of times that term, coach or something really doesn't encompass all the depth of the things that we do. But what it does allow us, like working in this kind of outside the mainstream thing, is it allows us to basically go straight to the source and get that efficiency, like what you were talking about. Like a lot of our colleagues and friends that are, say, like naturopathic doctors or licensed therapists, they feel a lot of the time, they've told us that they feel kind of restricted sometimes because even if they find a solution that's like, hey, we could offer this, if it doesn't fit with that business model of like, say, conventional health insurance, it won't be reimbursed. And then their clients are expecting, the insurance to pay for things. And it gets really, what ends up happening, and why a lot of our colleagues in FDN end up going the way of basically non-licensed practitioner or coach, is because it really allows freedom to just go, if we find a new tool or resource, we can just throw it right in our program the next day. We can immediately execute that and always basically be on that cutting edge of gathering data. Like right now, we're just researching a few new different, like stool tests, for example. Mm-hmm. We're analyzing the results of the ones we're using. And because we operate like on a cash pay system, the benefit of that is that we don't have to wait for the insurance company to get around to, accept the research. Like, oh, I guess we'll do that. It's like trying to turn around an ocean liner. And we see a lot of, even like, very well-intentioned doctors of all varieties trying to be like, hey, I really want to offer this to my clients or my patients. And they just can't because the business model is kind of blocking them. So it really do appreciate the ability to be extremely nimble and agile as a business to offer services to people that, like, if we're seeing that our clients have a problem that's not being solved with something that we're using or the tools they were using, we can immediately change that and go get a better tool and immediately give it to people. So
totally. It's like a feedback loop that helps you to improve so much quicker than it would be otherwise if you had to bring bureaucracy and everything into the whole thing. And I know you also test a lot of the new supplements and things like that on yourself. I know you had mentioned Natasha said just a little while ago, you were trying a new, what was it? Energy
peptide injection.
Was that what it was? Yeah. So it's just really cool that you guys are able to do that, work on it, see how it affects yourselves, and then make recommendations based off of that too. It's a much quicker walk. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we definitely walk the walk. And I know it seems like there's, so much stuff, like you were saying, we can test so many different things. And when we coach, we talk about so many different things, like soaps is, an example you just gave. And honestly, like the reason that we have to cover so much like breadth of information is that's what it takes. That's where like civilization has gotten us to this point where there's so many roadblocks that are blocking the body's innate ability to be well. Mm-hmm. That we have to go in and educate on all sorts of different topics so that people can understand where those roadblocks are and what strategies to take to remove them. And, this could be like a whole long philosophical conversation that maybe we'll have another time. But
it's the omnivore's dilemma, but like taken to a whole new level.
It's just kind of like covering every aspect of like human existing on this planet in modern times.
Yeah.
But a simple analogy that I like to use is, I feel like this can be maybe like relatable to a lot of people, is when you drive a car, right? Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people take really good care of their cars and they're really careful about what fuel they put in the engine. right? And why is that? Because the engine is designed to run on a certain type of fuel, right, with certain types of additives and very specific amounts. And if you start introducing contaminants into that fuel, or you put in the wrong fuel into the car, everybody knows what's going to happen to the engine, right? The engine is going to seize up, it's going to get all gunked up, it's going to have sludge in it, and then you're going to have to clean out the engine. It's a whole like long, complicated, costly process. But it's kind of it shows the extent to which people are disconnected from our source, which is like this planet. That's what provides us the fuel, right? Where we've forgotten what fuel these physical bodies need, right?
Totally.
You separate, the mind and the soul or the spirit or whatever kind of, you believe in. If you look at just the physical body, this is the machine that runs this whole outfit here.
Yeah.
The physical engine was designed for a certain type of fuel in certain ratios, certain amounts every day, and it expects certain inputs and certain outputs, right? And when you start introducing fuel into this physical engine, that is your body, that's not right for this engine, you're going to get all sorts of sludge and gunk in your engine. And, this is what people call toxins in our world. And then, you have to do all sorts of detox, or if you're not putting in the right fuel, like what you were saying, you get brain fog. And because the engine up here, the brain will start to misfire. So, and it's kind of mind-boggling how far we've gotten away from trusting our instincts, from understanding what is actually natural, like what our bodies expect, what sorts of inputs they expect, like movement, like sunlight, like mindful breathing, right?
Yeah.
Exposure to different temperatures, mindful eating from the source. With like the planet grows all the food that humans need, right? We don't actually need to manufacture anything to sustain our bodies and to enjoy good quality life. But, unfortunately, agriculture and, big pharma and all these like for-profit industries have been telling stories to us that we need to do different things or eat different foods that are actually just distracting us and introducing all this sludge and gunk into our engines. And then we wonder why our engines don't run optimally. But how could they? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Our engine and start putting sprinkle some water in there.
Well, even just being hydrated, I mean, drinking enough water, that's like such a huge thing that I don't know how many percent of the population don't do, but I was definitely one of those. And it's like, just like what you're talking about, when you start listening to the whispers of your body, it's like, even with some of the supplements and things that I'm taking right now, just multivitamins and different things, it's like, I can look at it and be connected to, oh yeah, my body does want that right now.
Right.
Or one day it'll be like, oh, you know what? I actually don't need that. And I never really thought that that was a thing until you guys kind of mentioned it. And I was just like, oh yeah, I can actually feel that. And it's really interesting when you start taking that time and that intention to connect with really what is your body saying to you, and creating that connection. You can do that, through breath, through meditation, through just laying down and taking a nap and being with your body for a little bit. But
our bodies have deep innate intelligence. We're intelligent beings. And when we surrender that intelligence and surrender that power to, authorities in white lab coats that have a prescription pad, it's very disempowering actually to people. And that's how we get like really disconnected from what our bodies actually need. But I think you're 100% right, where you can, if you really tune in and you listen to what your body is telling you, you'll know what food is right for you to eat. You know what supplements are right for you to take because the food is deficient in those nutrients, right?
I wanted to add too with that I really like the idea with supplementation in general. I think that sometimes it can get kind of a bad rap that like people, especially taking a lot of supplements, it can have kind of a negative connotation as in like, oh, this is just, they don't really work, or they're, we don't need to take so many, or there's a lot of different arguments. Sometimes even amongst the natural community, people can be like kind of bagging on supplements, saying like, well, you can just get it all from food and all this, which I actually agree with in theory. I think in theory, it is possible to get have digestion be optimal, have brain function be optimal without taking any supplements.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, there's a but there.
Very different context than that we live in civilization. The context our bodies evolved in as humans, everything, the last 10,000 years after the agricultural revolution, where humans transitioned from foraging tribes where they lived in tight-knit communities, outside in basically tropical climates, where they were getting, full sun exposure, full support of communities, and actually hunting food and in the dirt, and, everything from birth, and everything was natural. Childbirth was natural. There was no such thing as chemicals or manufactured anything. In that environment, like our bodies evolved, that I completely agree with that. And there's still some cultures on the earth that still, like, this handful of maybe 50 or 100 tribal foraging societies that still do that. And for them, I'm not going to go recommending that they, get rid of their very and start taking supplements.
Start taking supplements right now. Come on.
Yeah, they don't need it. And that's a theory. But I think that in modern civilized life, and the more that we live in kind of big, especially like Seattle, big tech hub city, there's lots of cars, lots of traffic, lots of stress, lots of like noise and light pollution. I think it's honestly wishful thinking that we can, even with the best of efforts. And as you said, Chris, like of all people, like the three of us, like we're some of the people who are putting the most effort in. I think even then it's a stretch to say that we can kind of outdo all of it just with, even if we go to like the best co-ops and get the best food, there's still a piece of that, I think, that is still missing from being optimal. And it really depends where the bar is. Like if somebody wants to just kind of get by and be okay, I think that just doing only lifestyle things can get you there. But I think if you want to live in modern life, my opinion is that if you want to get all the way back to optimal, at least some supplementation. And for a period of time, if somebody's healing, say 20, 30, 40, 50 years of metabolic chaos, trying to dig yourself out of that hole without using supplements, and especially without using really good supplements, it can be a lot of work, or in some cases, I think, honestly, impossible, because the body just has built up deficiencies of some things that, without using things like those, like high-powered liposomal vitamins and delivery systems that can really, go straight into the bloodstream and like literally jumpstart the brain or jumpstart the digestive process or clean out the gunk, like Natasha's talking about. Yeah. I think it's just a lot of times I think people end up spending a lot more time, energy, and honestly money too, with the guesswork, just trying to, how many other stress reliefs do people do? Like I've seen people, they'll go to the bar and spend $200 on alcohol for stress relief, but then it's like buying a $30 supplement for adaptogenic herbs to help alleviate stress. Well, that's expensive. That's a ripoff. And it's like, I don't agree with that. I think that there's a really powerful case to be made for not just randomly shotgunning supplements, but like you're saying, doing targeted lab testing or intelligent investigation through, qualitative, like, interviewing and filling out surveys to really get at symptoms. I think that's a really intelligent approach. And, personally in our practice and in our own lives, it works really good. There's a lot of breakthroughs that I personally had with my health that never would have been possible without using the right supplement at the right time.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, I love that you guys take the guesswork out of it, basically. I mean, I'm coming up pretty relatively soon. I think I'll redo testing and stuff like that to see where am I at now, physically, everything like that. Like I know where I am psychologically, mentally, and how I feel. But when you get that test one more time, and again, that's the other thing that I like about what you two do. You're not trying to make it so that you have to be reliant on these supplements and on this type of lifestyle. I mean, the lifestyle is something that I'm going to be doing all the time because it's just like the way that I want to be. I want to be beyond optimal. I want to be unleashed. I want to be able to make as much impact as I can. And But what you're doing with the testing up front and everything is that you're really putting that extra effort and work right then and there, so that over the next 3, 6, 9 months, whatever it is that you want to do that for, you can really regenerate and rebuild and recreate all of that digging out of the hole that you need to do. And even if you were being very healthy before, it was still a shotgun into the dark because you just didn't know. And now we have these tools and this qualitative process to go in there and figure it all out with testing. And you don't even need to be interested in that qualitative aspect because you guys like doing it, especially Chad.
That's our job. Yeah. That's what I mean.
Well, okay. So I want to roll back for a minute. Mm-hmm. What was it that got you both onto this path? And I like to ask people, what is that vulnerable situation where you realize like, hey, I need to make a change or something's not going right? And what was that transformation or that decision-making process and the things that came out of it that led you to where you are now?
Yeah, for me, it was back pain, just kind of like you. I started experiencing back pain when I was like 15 or 16 or something, which coincidentally coincided with my move from Russia to the United States, and my food changed. My whole environment and my food supply was drastically different. I didn't really eat a whole lot of processed food when I was a kid. And then suddenly moving to the United States, actually my first job was at McDonald's.
Oh gosh, yeah.
McDonald's burgers at the end of the shift because, it was free food and my family didn't really have a whole lot of money. So I was like, oh, hey, it's food. And we didn't know any better at that time. So that's when I started experiencing back pain, and it got progressively worse over the years. And I'm not in bad shape. I've kind of always looked like this. I was never severely overweight or anything like that. And I was always active, and no one could really actually ever explain to me why my back hurt. I kept going to specialist after specialist after specialist, asking the question, why? Why is my back in pain? Like, why me? Mm-hmm. And, I kept getting like Band-Aid solutions, or here's like a steroid injection for pain relief, or, just do some PT exercises and things like that. And, some of it was helped temporarily, but it never really answered my question, why? So some of the most vulnerable moments for me were when I had my babies. And I remember particularly one instance when my daughter, who was my second child, was around 2 years old or something like that. And she's, a rambunctious little toddler playing around. And I had one of my episodes where my back seized up to the point that I could barely get out of bed. Like it was that bad. It's not that I, had like some aches and pains and it was hard for me to like carry both kids around, stuff like that. I could barely move my own body, like getting out of bed, brushing my teeth over the sink was painful. So I'm on the couch and my mom was here helping me because I couldn't take care of the kids. My daughter is running around. She trips and falls, and she's, tiny little 2-year-old toddler, and she starts crying. And I, as a mother, cannot get off the couch, pick her up and comfort my child.
Wow. Yeah.
That was one of my lowest moments. I was like, this cannot be my reality forever.
Got it.
Do this.
Yeah.
These episodes became fairly frequent. 2 to 4 times a year, I was laid up and I couldn't take care of not just the kids in the household, but myself even too. And I had to call my mom to come and stay with me to help me. And that's when I was like, yeah, this can't be my life forever. I can't do this. So I kept on this pursuit of like trying to figure out the why, like why was my body in so much pain? What was causing it? And it wasn't until metabolic chaos. I was like, oh, bingo.
It's not anything. It's literally everything that's doing it.
Exactly. It's literally everything. Right. So that was, and I had been on the journey to like figure out nutrition and exercise and things like that. Fitness has been my passion my entire life, basically, since I was a little kid. And I've been teaching fitness and participating in it for like 20 years in various ways. So I knew that wasn't my limiting factor. That it wasn't the lack of movement. And I did do my best with the resources that I had to figure out the best nutrition for my body. Turns out I was off by quite a bit. I just didn't know it because I didn't look in the right sources, in the right places, right? But I was on the right path. I was just off by quite a bit. So it was blocking my healing. And once I was able to remove those roadblocks, like I was talking about, through our training in FDN and implementing all those principles, DRESS principles, diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, supplements. Once I was able to do all of that, then like magic, I don't know, my back pain went away. Like 22 years of back pain like that gone.
And the thing I think is the most interesting about that personally is that it wasn't that she, like Natasha, was going to like an osteopath and a chiropractor and, doing our approach with supplements and nutrition and stuff. She was doing literally none of that. She was doing absolutely zero structural modalities, stretching, strengthening exercises. Like none of that was happening. Any sort of other conventional modality. Mm-hmm. It was only the nutrition and supplementation. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. That was like, wow, that is impressive. It's not like a complimentary thing. It was the entire thing.
Yeah.
Well, because we have so many nerve endings and everything that just goes directly into our gut. And if our microbiome and biome isn't like working properly, I mean, even like, I remember when I first started, like right before I started with you guys, like I had one of those episodes where my back just like gave out.
Yes.
And I was like laying down on the ground and I'm like, what is going on?
Right.
I'm 30 and I'm like not able to do anything. You're like, now, like, what is this? Like, with just no reason. My back was just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna lay down on the ground now.
That moment that I'm talking about when my daughter was about 2 years old, I was about that age. I was like 31, 32, something like that. Yeah. And like, imagine you like that on the floor, but you have like 2 kids running around.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine that. That's intense. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was almost honestly kind of by accident that like we realized that how powerful this was specifically for back pain, because it is kind of like something that is not as obvious on the surface, especially to most people when they think about back pain, using say nutrition or supplements to address that. Because like, it's interesting with like the placebo effect when someone thinks something's going to work and it does. Well, Natasha was kind of the opposite, where she was like, she literally had basically given up. Like, I'm just going to be in pain. I'm going to do like all the pole dancing and aerial art stuff that she does. She's like, I'm just going to do it and push through the pain.
Yep.
And she was doing this program through, the nutrition and the testing and all that stuff, and the supplements, and her back healed anyway. So basically that was like, there's zero placebo effect there because she didn't go into it thinking this is going to work. She was specifically not thinking it was going to work necessarily. And it did anyway.
Despite.
It went over and it was more powerful than the nocebo effect, which is impressive. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so Chad, what about for you?
So my journey is interesting. I grew up on basically a small farm in California. And I say interesting because even though there was a lot of things that are kind of closer to that tribal lifestyle, like I was thinking about, like mentioning earlier, like I was able to play outside in the dirt a lot. We did have animals and we, raised, pigs and chickens and had eggs and things like that. But I was still exposed to most of the foods we were eating on a day-to-day basis were still a lot of processed fast foods, conventional kind of approaches like that.
Ironic.
And
it is ironic
that food, the base of food, and my parents were doing their best. Obviously, they just didn't have a lot of the education and knowledge, and this was 30 years ago at the time, so there wasn't in the mainstream yet a lot of the things about the whole concept of like organic food wasn't really a thing. It was all basically kind of conventional foods back then, aside from kind of a really small kind of groups of people that were doing things organically. But going through that journey of like, I grew up flipping burgers, and eating burgers and fries and fast food kind of literally every single meal, to the point that when I was in high school, in my mid-teens, like 16, 17, I remember one of my low points was going to a conventional doctor because I was having such severe stomach pain. Like I couldn't really function on a day-to-day basis. I would have like severe stomach cramps where I couldn't function. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't go to school. And I remember going to this doctor, and he was like, it was interesting because he's like, oh, you're probably just stressed, which technically is true. I probably was too stressed and overworked and all that stuff. But there was definitely more going on. And it sticks out of my mind because it's so obvious that like there was just a complete lack of awareness around that from him as a medical doctor. And that theme continued through much of like, up through my, late 20s, basically going to multiple different doctors and specialists from a lot of different symptoms I had, from gaining a bunch of weight in college. I actually gained about 60 pounds. I was a soccer player. I was always a soccer player for my whole life, but I didn't play that much in college, and I traded it out for the beer and pizza diet as I and ended up 60 pounds slowly over, not slowly at first, actually fairly rapidly over the first couple 2-3 years, but between being sedentary, and it's not shocking now at all, eating, complete terrible diet and drinking a bunch of alcohol and grain and stuff. And was really just disappointed in like what I was seeing with my body and my brain function. Like I was always, top of my class in every school I've done in life, but like I was watching my brain get, brain fog and dropping my concentration. And it was really just making me sad. And I was like, I'm not going to go out like this, kind of like what Natasha was saying. There's got to be more to this. So I went on this kind of long 10-year journey of learning, one thing after the next. That was like, the first thing was food, and realizing like, wait a minute, like this whole kind of whole grains, low fat approach to food might not be right. And started reading books on this. And I tried experimenting with my diet, and it started blowing my mind. I would lose,
like literally
like, I would switch out my foods with some of like the nutrition plans like we use now, like more of like a whole foods kind of paleo type template. And, my brain function would just come back online. I dropped, I ended up losing all the weight. I'm back to the same weight I was in high school now, which is about 170, where I was up to about 225 at one point. Wow, just with a bunch of extra body fat. And like, it frustrated me. I couldn't play sports as well as I wanted to. I couldn't think at work. And it's really been a big, passion project of mine to, starting off with just how do I get myself functioning, and then how do I help other people after I get myself working. So
totally. Yeah. That's an awesome thing. I mean, so you guys have both been on two pretty amazing stories so far. And you're really dedicating your life and what you do in your time and in your business to what exactly is it that you would say you have dedicated your life and business to right now?
What exactly is it? The pursuit of truth, I think, is like kind of what it really comes down to. Chad even has it tattooed on his arm, truth. Yeah. And I think that's honestly kind of, the thing that sets us apart as a business and as people is we refuse to compromise our integrity.
Yeah.
It's, as soon as, like what Chad was saying, as soon as we learn something new and we accept that as the truth, we will pivot. Like we're not going to continue on the same path as we did before, ignoring this. What's that saying about a man stumbling over the truth? Was that Brene Brown? Or?
It's something that is like a lot of men stumble over the truth and like pick up, brush themselves off, and keep scurrying along. Like they don't like actually take the truth in because it's like too much work, or it's inconvenient, or it messes with their business model or something. But
a lot of times it is really hard. It's, like what you're saying, if you realize that you've been doing something a certain way kind of your entire life, and then you figure out like, actually that was harmful, as it turns out. It's difficult. It's challenging to accept that in yourself, and especially if it affects your business. It's really difficult to switch, to change your mindset. But that's, the one thing that we will not compromise.
Beautiful. And that lets you guys stay top of your game and really like not latching on to one thing that was, the original truth or whatever it is, and being able to evolve and grow constantly and not be stuck in a certain way of being or a certain way of teaching or a certain way of doing. It's like, like beginner's mind basically, but for business and for life. It's awesome.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I feel like I agree with all of that. And just to add to it, that um, it really, yeah, it really is like a dedication to continual growth in pursuit of
Mhm.
truth, specifically in the areas of health, human health, and well-being, both mentally, physically, spiritually, all the aspects of it, and really dedicated to being of the highest service for basically what information have we collected that can be of the most use to people. And
Mm.
we direct that in different ways. Like we're always have this iterative cycle of going back and seeing what have we been doing recently, what programs are we running, how well are they working for people, and what amount of impact are we having. I'm always really driven by the hardest challenges. Like if people have been stuck on something and it's supposedly incurable or infixable, that's what excites me because I enjoy a really hard challenge. And with health, I love that. I enjoy it when someone's like, oh, well, that can't, we talked to someone recently that had like autoimmune disease, which is very common in functional medicine, looking at autoimmunity and the process
Yeah.
of inflammatory cascades and how that affects people's well-being and different processes of degeneration, like inflammatory bowel disease or Alzheimer's, just a lot of these self-destructive cycles. And their kind of sentiment was like, well, I don't know if this, this stuff could really help me because I've been diagnosed with this thing. And, the conventional solutions are telling me that this is impossible. And
Mhm.
it's like that challenge of not only, it's interesting because the easy part of all this is actually figuring out how to reverse it in practice, like writing someone a list, a prescription, if you will, of like, do these things and take these supplements. That's actually fairly easy. The more challenging part, coming from like my psychology background, is how do you communicate that to people in a way that they're going to be able to open up and accept the change. That I think is actually much, much harder, and is the current focus of our our newest programs that we're developing right now. For example, we just went kind of back to the drawing board and just spent time just as students, just literally just researching like very open-ended questions like, what are you struggling with? Like we
Yeah.
have a huge toolkit. Like I can literally map out all of your blood chemistry with like 300-400 markers. I can run a data analysis and show it to you in graphical format and color-coded charts and all this stuff. Is that what you're stuck on, or what is your actual biggest stumbling block? And it's very interesting because we started getting, a bunch of information where people were saying things like, wow, I'm really stuck with, things like community support. Like I'm trying to make
Mm.
changes, and in my household, I'm not able to execute this diet plan because my spouse or my kids are not on board, or
Yeah.
I don't have a big enough community to reach out to when I'm struggling with food cravings or something like that when I'm trying to change my diet. And that was it. That's what our current stage is at, where we're literally about ready to launch a beta test for a new group program specifically around nutrition.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing people said that they're really struggling with a lot. Like they're like, yeah, your guys' stuff is great. I want to do all this stuff, but I want something entry level, maybe so I can feel this in my own body. Like I want to be able to start with the food and really, start getting rid of some of the sensitivities. Sometimes even without the testing, just try out pulling some of the known inflammatory foods and seeing if I feel better. But I don't, basically they were telling us that they didn't feel comfortable executing that without, the right amount of group support and things. So
Yeah, totally.
really excited about this. So I'm sure she might be able to add something with her.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, that's one of the other things that I'm curious about is what's next for you guys. So like in this new program, what is it? When are you going to be rolling it out?
Yeah, community support is huge. And like, I truly believe that with all of my being, that community will help create health and well-being. Because in isolation, it is really difficult to do. It can be really confusing. We're social creatures. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah. Just particularly challenging in this pandemic where we're told to, stay home and isolate from most people.
Yeah.
It's particularly challenging. Luckily, we're creative species too, and we're coming up with things like this, like video conferencing and
Yeah.
virtual group support, which luckily those tools are available and they're easy. So that's one of the things that we're creating in our new program is a close-knit tribe of people going through the same program at the same time.
Yeah.
Where, you get that, we're talking about having accountability buddies, even not with us, the coaches, but within the group where people can pair up and have accountability buddies, because that's really, really powerful when you're accountable to another person. And it's not like a, military kind of accountability.
It could be if you wanted it to be, though.
It's not my style.
Between the two accountability buddies, I mean, it could be.
Right.
If they need that.
My style. I guess if that's what the people want to do between the two of them and it's a good fit for them, sure. It's not my style. I want to cultivate more of like a really supportive kind of a tribal feeling where, we can be vulnerable, share our story, share our challenges, and share our wins too. And, cheer each other on for those small wins, like take it one small step at a time and celebrate our accomplishments, where, so that people feel motivated and supported to keep going, that, they're acknowledged and their struggles are acknowledged and validated. And then they're given tools and resources and community support to clear those hurdles.
Totally.
So that's the part I'm most excited about.
Yeah, and we still are going to keep offering our bigger, full, intensive packages, like similar to like what you went through, Chris, in terms of like people that are ready now to invest, the time, energy, money, resources into. I really want to dive in. I want all the data. Like, I got your back. Good. But we also wanted to, we had this need that a lot of people were like, they're in our network. They've been following us for a long time, or new people just, maybe even just hearing this today that are like, I want to get into this world. I love what you guys are saying, but I want something that's more entry level that I can manage with a smaller scope, like something that's a group support and a lower price point, things where I can get in and start feeling this in my own body first, and then I might be ready for a deeper dive later. So this new program is going to be called the Love Yourself Lean program. It's going to be, it's focusing, like in the title is, kind of like a weight loss type of program. That was what a lot of people were saying they wanted the most help with, the thing that they were most interested in. So we're designing a program based on that. But in reality, as we've talked about here, and like what you were saying, Chris, it's not only going to give you those kind of benefits. Like the same nutrition plan that will help you basically like kind of more effortlessly lose body fat just through, proper nutrition, what we would consider proper nutrition, and adjusting macronutrients, controlling blood sugar, all that kind of stuff, which we can get a lot of that done even without the testing. The testing accelerates it for sure. But there's a lot we can get done on a scale that's more of a group coaching scale and things like that for this. It will also help people with things like brain function, because they're going to be eliminating things like processed sugars. And the whole point of the group support of it is that when people try to do these things on their own, or it's like, I'll just go read this book, which is great. I've read a lot of books, and I actually learn fairly well just reading a book and following it more with that regimented style, like what you're saying, Chris. I think sometimes guys, we can do that a little more.
I need a tribe.
And but yeah, we were hearing from other people, and a lot of women especially, that like they need that group support and to be able to thrive, to execute the changes. So this new program is going to incorporate a lot of that, and it's going to be a much lower price point than our other programs, to really just get people in the door. It's going to be a 4-week program where people can go through, really adjust their diet, have like weekly workouts and accountability buddies and things like Natasha was saying, to really get them through that. So we'll throw up a URL, here in the show notes or something. It's going to be anabolicaces.com/lean. Or /lean, whichever way the slash goes.
Which way does the slash lean?
Forward, I think.
And offer a discount code for all the listeners today. So
awesome.
A discount code for an extra $50 off. We're designing this program at it's a $400 price point for a month. Because it's at the entry level stages, we're running beta testing. We're really digging in and wanting to get a lot of feedback and surveys from people on it. Currently, we're going to run that at half price. So we're going to start it at 200. But just for everyone on here, because Chris is our buddy, we're going to give you guys an extra $50 off. So it's a good way, and I'm sure Chris can back this up, that like to get, a chunk of our information for $150 is really a screaming deal. So
I 100% agree with that. I mean, you guys have so much behind what you do and what you offer. You've done so much research and so much testing, and there's literally thousands of hours behind what you guys do and what you offer. So it's definitely something worthwhile to do. When I'm still working with you guys on different things, but when I hopped into this whole thing, I, had some expectations, and all of them were beyond met. And so I really want to say just how much I'm grateful for you guys, what you offer, what you do, who you are, just generally being around you and knowing you, and the way that you're able to coach and offer support to people is really amazing. So I'm really excited to see this new evolution of what you're offering and these new entry-level programs for people that do want to start getting a little bit more into the health background and into doing things for themselves. And having you there to help them through that is a invaluable thing. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this gets rolled out and how it happens, and whatever I can do to help as well. I'm more than happy to do that. I thank you for sharing all of that. We'll definitely put it all into the comments, and then I'm going to upload this afterwards to YouTube so we can do a little description on there of where we can find you and where to get to you, and you guys can share the video too. We're getting close to our cutoff time, so I want to just respect your guys' timing. And I've got a few additional quick questions for you guys. Number one, for each of you individually, what is the simplest and most impactful and reproducible technique or life hack that you have as a consistent practice in your life right now that you'd like to share with people?
I think for me, one of the most impactful things that I've learned and implemented has been mindful eating. Like really, truly paying attention to what you're putting inside your body. One of the people I follow who is kind of one of the people I hold up like the highest in terms of respect for what he has done is Paul Chek. And listeners might be familiar with him, CHEK, kind of Paul Chek. So listen to his podcast. It's like seriously mind-blowing. It's amazing. And one of the things that he recently talked about that I heard him say is, if you have like, a plate of food in front of you, this is a teacup, but pretend it's a plate of food. What he will do is literally like take a moment to tune in to his body, his intuition, and like feel the energy of the food. And he goes as far as like, either inviting the food to come in and become part of his being, because that's how it works. When people say you are what you eat, that's quite literal. Like your skin, your tissues, your hair is made out of the things you consume, right? So he will either invite the food to become part of his body, or he will actually ask this plate of food in front of him, are you okay joining me in this? And sometimes he gets the feeling that, no, this is not okay. And then he simply won't eat that food. And he tells stories of how he's been, in restaurants with other people, and he will have this like ceremonious moment, this mindfulness connection with the plate of food in front of him. And he gets a negative signal that this is not right for his body right now. And then everybody else who has eaten at that restaurant or eaten the same foods or whatever, they get sick, and he doesn't because
wow.
Yeah, and there's so much truth to that. And this is what I'm talking about, that like innate wisdom that our bodies have, that we've gotten so distant from listening to our instincts. But for me, that has been one of the most powerful things, is if I'm able to sit and like slow down and like mindfully look at what's in front of me and invite it to become part of my body. And if the signal is no, like my intuition is telling me, no, this isn't right, I just won't do it. And basically anything that's been altered and processed and like really removed really far from the source is pretty much universally not right to join our our bodies.
When you actually look at what a Big Mac looks like, not on the pictures and the advertising, but in person.
And if you think about what did Big Mac, like what did, the bun, the lettuce, the meat, the whatever is on it, what did it have to go through?
Yeah.
Original source to become this man-made thing. And if it's too much, it's not right. It's just not right.
Amazing. I love, it's like, it's not even just mindful eating, it's intentional eating.
Right.
It's adding that intention into, and it's intention and harmonious too, right? Where you're sitting there and you're going, okay, here's this food.
Right.
Will you join me on this adventure? Like,
exactly.
Will you become a part? Are you ready to join this energy and join this body? Like, I've never thought about doing it in that manner. That's really, really cool. I love it.
Yeah. I learned that from Paul Chek, and I really think there's so much truth to that. Like, he has a lot of wisdom to share, and that's one of the gems that I picked up recently. And I've started practicing that more and more. I'm not 100%. I don't do it 100% of the time, but I'm aware of it 100% of the time. And even if I don't practice it with a certain meal, I'm aware that that's what I should be doing. So I'm getting closer and closer to that, consistency. And, it's weird because humans are literally the only species on this planet that need like a graduate degree to figure out what to eat. Yep. And it all comes back to how far disconnected we are from the source. That's the only reason why.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
love it. Thank you.
I would say that my biggest tip is to be very, very careful about how much you use food for entertainment.
Oh, good one.
I feel like on what Natasha was saying about needing education around food, I feel like the modern version of not just processed food, but food in general, even concepts like, enjoying restaurant food or I used to consider myself a foodie. Like I go get, that the goal of all eating and meals and snacks and all this stuff, that the goal is taste basically and entertainment value in terms of like, and I was steeped in this until, fairly recently, until I started shifting to more of like a whole foods, empowering and fueling my body as a different way of doing this. I was very steeped in this and thought like, how much of a emotional spike can I get from this meal? How much pleasure can I get on my taste buds? How much can I like, stuff myself so I feel like all sleepy and happy and like boost my serotonin up by overeating carbs and all these different things that I think are highly encouraged by restaurants, by food manufacturers, by grocery stores, by damn near everybody, that parties. Like eating like yummy foods. I really have found like that is like not a very productive thing. In fact, the farther I've gotten away from that, the healthier that I feel, and the healthier my body looks and performs, and my brain performs as well. So I would recommend like really examining that, really exploring and kind of meditating on the idea of like, how much do I use food for emotional support instead of other things like nature or connecting with people or community.
Yeah.
How could I start replacing food, especially because the danger of this is that when I think it's encouraged for people to entertain themselves with food, that's this very slippery slope into this term I like for that's called hyper palatability, where things just taste better and better and better. It's kind of like the ice cream sundae version of everything. Like, and as much as, I love just like anyone else, I get that fireworks of neurochemistry when I eat like an amazing burger and fries and bacon and an egg and all this stuff. And I love it. But that's kind of the problem. It's kind of like people love heroin. Like it's
an addiction. Yeah.
It feels good, but there's a big cost to that. And there's a big cost to, gut health, from everything from like gut health to weight gain and brain function and toxicity, blood sugar control, all that can get just like wrecked from that single kind of pivot over towards like, I'm going to entertain myself with my snacks and my meals versus I'm going to nourish myself.
Yeah.
That's my biggest tip, is for people to kind of just pay attention to that. And obviously, like we said, that's what we spend our whole life's work doing here, is just, building solutions to help guide people through that. Cause we know it's not easy. It definitely is not. It's probably the hardest thing for people, I think, is transitioning the emotional connection away from, supporting yourself with food. That's why we named our program like Love Yourself Lean, because it's literally like learning to love yourself instead of, soothing old wounds with foods, which I think is a lot of what's going on when people are resistant to changing their diet. That's the biggest block. It's not that they don't want to be healthy. It's that the journey from getting where they're at in order to how to feel emotionally supported and well, physically and mentally, without those crutches of sugar and, processed foods and a lot of carbs and a lot of starchy kind of foods like that, are very comforting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, how can you take care of yourself from the inside out, not the outside in?
Yeah, exactly.
Love it. Well, I've got one last one for you. And that question is, what is the impact that you want to have on this world?
You want to start that one? Impact.
Yeah, that's a good question. A little while ago in my journey, I might have said I want to help, 1 billion people or something, or ever help everyone on earth. Honestly, the more I kind of keep up my readings about tribes and community and things, I think what like my purpose, what I want to do for impact, is helping the right people at the right time on a scale that works. And I'm a lot more accepting now that helping people in my smaller tribe of, friends and also professional context on a smaller scale, maybe in the hundreds instead of, the billions or something, is great. And it's an awesome thing. And really just embracing that impact of like changing the lives of a handful of people is extremely important. And I think that's something that's very meaningful to me in terms of impact, is just helping the people that are closest to me and the people that are really wanting to change, as opposed to kind of watering down what I do to spread it out to, everybody on earth. If it's going to be kind of the beige version of it, as Natasha might say, instead of the bright pink version, which could really change people's lives. And
I love it.
I'm okay with that.
And like, don't downgrade the actual impact of that impact, because the moment you impact one person, that impact is carried to every single person that person interacts with. So no matter where your impact is made, I love what you're saying, like make the right impact to the right people at the right time. It's like, is there anything else other than that?
I actually really share that. And that's why like I'm so passionate about, raising my kids, for instance, because these are like two humans that I made myself with a little help.
And mostly you, yeah.
I did a lot of the work. I can have, the most impact on those two humans from the start. You know what I mean? And I can help to shape them and guide them and kind of point them in the right direction. And then I do actually believe in what you're saying, Chris, that they can spread the impact too. Yeah. So I've never actually been big on, wanting to impact millions of people. I've always kind of been a little more like, I want to impact my close-knit community and particularly my children. So yeah.
That's love it. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Well, we've gone a little bit over time. It's all good. And I just want to say thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you.
Of course. And I can't wait to spread this video to as many people as we possibly can. For all those watching, please like, share, subscribe, follow, all of that stuff. We'll post links to where you can find Chad and Natasha, Anabolic Aces, and their new programs and their original programs. And once again, they are just wonderful human beings that are dedicated to helping you live your life better. and be unleashed in everything that you do. So thank you so much for joining me, you guys.
I'll say too, just to close this out, that I've attended a number of your virtual sound baths and your breathing and meditation sessions, and fantastic. Like, I can't recommend it enough. So if anybody is listening and they haven't tuned in to Chris's sound bath and meditation sessions, you're missing out. You should.
Like that. Yes.
Thank you very much, you guys. Once again, the mission in these conversations is to bring you wisdom through vulnerably discussing transformational life experiences and imparting impactful techniques and life hacks that will connect you to your most powerful selves. Let's all expand together. Until next time, all you beautiful beings, thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. Cheers, you guys.
Bye.